Our speaker tonight is joining us from 2 time zones east, so it's a bit later in New York. So we don't want to keep him up too late. But anyhow, Samir will be talking to us tonight. I was just remembering, Samir, today, it just kind of out of the blue came back to me how I met you. We were at a conference and you were speaking, and during a coffee break, we both ended up in a locked down cafeteria kitchen looking for tea because we didn't want coffee. And there's no tea on the coffee break table. So that was the last conference I ever attended without bringing my own tea along.
That's great. We met in the kitchen.
That's exactly
how auspicious is that?
Portent of things to come. Exactly. So Samir, as we mentioned in the event description, is a chef and a coach, and he kind of pairs the skills of cooking with the skills and the vision we need to lead more meaningful lives. So that's what he's going to talk to us about tonight. You can expect that he'll be sharing some of what he's learned over the years in the kitchen, and he'll also guide us in some sort of hands-on activities and exercises to help us do some of our own thinking and work as regards kitchen and a whole set of life skills. So while Samir is talking, feel free to use the reactions button that's down on your bottom bar. The little smiley emoji gives you the option for only a clap or a thumbs up. There's no opportunity to vote anything down when he says something you don't like. And also you can feel free to add anything in the chat. We'll have some breaks for questions, but if you enter those in the chat, then we can make sure that we get to them when we take a break. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Samir, for being willing to talk with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lori, for inviting me. It's so beautiful to see all these slices of life all over. It's almost like a building. You remove the first facade and you see homes. Like, I always kind of had a dream that I could be able to see and sort of be voyeur of how people live their lives, and we're experiencing more and more of that. Our environment tells us something, it is just so beautiful. And I'm so excited that I have opportunity to talk about this. We are all part of, kitchen is part of all of our lives. We actually are made in the kitchen. We grow, we come into being by our mother eating, and then we come out from what she ate, we become, and then we come out and then immediately we attach to the feeding system that's for free. And the world feeds us and grows us and creates us. And then as we are growing, we've witnessed this miracle of being in the kitchen and looking at our people who care for us, and they take the world from out of the doors of our homes and bring it in, then do a magic with it, and we put it in ourselves, and then we grow. And it's this learning to trust the world, that actually the world is on your side in some way, that is interested in supporting you, that it exists to support you. Recently, how many of you love to watch like cooking shows? Right? I used to be, I read books by Michael Pollan, and he a little bit complains about how the number of hours that we cook has shrunk exactly by the number of hours we watch cooking. And so you basically have, you have cooks and you have eaters and you have watchers, right? And I used to have be snooty about that. Like, oh, if you don't cook, you're not for real, right? But watching cooking is our coming back to trusting life, coming back to when we were kids, holding to mom's leg and seeing that everything is good with the world. And that comfort of that, just comfort. Somebody says, like Trump or whoever says, there's no free lunch, like those kind of things. Excuse me. First several thousand lunches were very free. So we exist by world gifting us. And that experience of growing up in a kitchen with significant others who love us, I think that's why we like watching. It gives us peace. It gives us a sense of being part of something larger than ourselves. It's a first experience of being cared for. And so now when you kind of fast forward this and you come to a time where a lot of food is processed and transported, and there is no enough freedom for us to enjoy simply our in-life experiences as experiences where we transform and grow. So what ends up happening is that we rush through vacuuming our house and we rush through cooking our lunch so that we can go in a car and rush to drive to come to a room where we have a mindfulness class, right? We have a meditation class. We go to a place in some room artificially created for us to come to think about paying attention to our lives, right? And then we rush back and then we stop going to mindfulness class because it takes us so much time, right? So the issue of kitchen being right in front of our noses, right there, including being present in our scriptures from the beginning to an end. I mean, the whole thing started with eating something from the tree. The whole thing is maintained by communion, which we actually, take something on. And at the end of times, it says Jesus knocks at your door and you open. He doesn't come in to tell you a sermon, to have a meeting, to have a prayer, to talk theology, to talk about love, to talk about God, none of that. It just simply ends. When all is said and done and you open the door, I'll sit down and we will eat together. Like, that's it, right? So I love this quote by Walt Whitman. I have it here on a slide, but I love looking at you better than the slides. He says, "We were together, I forget the rest. We were together, I forget the rest." It really doesn't matter what we are saying right now here. What matters is that we are together. And that these little windows that you have, that we all together have enough imagination to take these little squares that we're looking at right now seriously. That this is a real contact we have, that we are transcending distance. This is not like you're where you are and I'm where we are, and then this Zoom meeting is some sort of some sort of approximation of an approximation. No, you're there and I'm here and we're in contact and this is real. And I think it's up to us to imagine that. So same way we pay attention to anything else in our lives. Life reveals itself to us proportionately to the depth and surface of our attention, right? So my invitation is to go to where things are obvious, and people, we cannot simplify. We know that if we want to live abundantly, we need to simplify our lives. And we cannot simplify our lives by adding more simplicity to it. 10 simple things to do. We cannot add anything. Adding is done, right? So we have to pay attention to what is already, right? And so I can talk about transformative power of experience of cooking and eating, surviving and thriving through it, and the way it touches our politics, economy, relationships, in such a deep way. I bet if I ask you about your family, you would quickly start going to some kitchen conversation, right? It connects our past and our future. We remember. Like, my daughter is now following me around and taking my recipes, and she's like she's 25, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's what I did with my mom when I realized that life passes. And with those recipes, obviously come a lot of stories. So I can take us into different directions right now, and I think maybe I should talk a little more and then kind of turn it to you for some reflection of how this is landing, or if you have any observations, or you want to bring something up. So let's see how this sharing is going to work here. Advanced, right? All right, so you can see it now, right? See it? Great. All right. So, yeah. So what I'm trying to do is normalize transformation so people can achieve their goals to transformational cooking and other in-life practices. So I realized this for the first time, this concept, when I was a pastor for 10 years. Parents would have like small children, and moms would be frustrated that they don't have enough like time for themselves, time for like devotional, to read the Bible, because that's what in their minds, that those were spiritual disciplines, right? And I'm like, something is so wrong with that. I mean, you are creating life. I mean, you are being God right now, right? You have a God-like experience. And Bible is distraction. Prayer is distraction. There are far, far more important things for you to do. Like, you know, like caressing your stomach. Like that would be the, you know, the worship you can, like, it's not, nothing can compare. Like no song or anything like that. So I always felt as a pastor that churches sometimes, you know, created as distraction from these things. And so I learned to cook in Tuscany when I was in middle school. I would go, I had my family there, and I would work in a pizza place. And then when I was in the Army, I was working in a kitchen. They just put me, it was just like, just happened with, you know, 5,000 soldiers. And I was there for 14 months and 3 meals a day. And then, and when I was in the 8th grade, I was guest hosting a cooking show in national TV when I was in former Yugoslavia. And I did that because my parents were fanatics. I mean, they were really, really like, they lost their minds, like how much they were in cooking. And most of my childhood, I couldn't go to all the soccer games or to dance parties or anything like that, because I was home and always helping and always doing things. And I have stories that I can spend all evening, anecdotes of how seriously they took that. And I never took it seriously, just until a couple of years ago. I realized, man, when I look back, all the metaphors I'm using are from kitchen. Whenever I talk about something, whenever I do something, I say, okay, I might as well do that. So now when you are arriving here, as you arrive a kitchen, so you have a kitchen, or you are here right now in this meeting. You're here, now what? You know, and what helps me often is to differentiate between goals and intentions. Goal is something that we do that is in the future. It is actually something that we go, something we are moving towards, right? But intention is where we are coming from, right? So intention is much, much more conducive to learning, because it says how I'm going to show up. If you talk about the goal where you want to be someday, whether you want to be a good cook or you want to be a good lover or whatever you want to be, it separates you from the present all the time. You cannot make those moves and you don't pay attention to the present. And so I often say that it's the most important thing is to set your intention to be curious and learn, rather than you know, setting a goal. The other day I was talking with somebody and I don't know, like, let's make a little poll here. I mean, how many of you know what are these? Yeah, where's this from? Yeah, that's great. So you can type it, or you can just tell me if you're not on mute.
Those are the elements, aren't they?
Yep, 4 elements from Avatar.
Right. And they're from this series of cartoons that my daughters watched, and I was like, it's called The Last Airbender. And then I mean, this was like a long time ago, and well, long enough that I how did I didn't know? So I started watching them like 3 months ago, and my daughter's like, "Dad is watching the Airbender," you know. And so these four elements are really beautifully designed. If you go on the internet, nothing like this design is there. And keep looking. If you find something, it'll be great. But these elements are air, water, earth, and fire. And that's what kitchen is made of. It's so primal. It is place where we started doing the magic of transforming the world. And it's a place where we got for the first time, and we could deal with these elements and then create food, treat the food, so that our brains had enough energy because we were cooking food. Otherwise, all of our energy would be spent on foraging and chewing. But once we were able to treat the food, suddenly there was a first moment of boredom, a first moment where people would simply say, what's the meaning of all of this? Right? Running around. And then people started sharing, and the narrative storytelling was born around the food because it gave enough time to pause. And then later, when pot was invented with agriculture, that thing completely changed the world. Same as fire changed and wheel, so was the pot. To the point that the cooks and priests had the same name, magueiros, which was people who transform something so we can live and have meaning, right? We can have a good life. And so I really like that. And so when you look at these four elements, I want us, this would be our like a first little breakout here. I want to ask you is, if you think of when you're in the kitchen, but think of it like in yoga, as on a mat, so in life, right? So if on a mat you can be patient, then you can in life you can be patient. It's actually a full whole person enactment and learning of something. So these four elements, when I ask people, how are you doing in the kitchen? I can go through these four elements and say, all right, so element of fire. Element of fire is the element that is like a dojo. It's where blood gets spilled. It's work. It's get shit done. You know, it's like pressure. It's like kids are at a table and healthy food needs to arrive. And my spouse is bothering me about something and we have unresolved issues, but food has to be done, right? It has to happen, right? So there is no mercy there. It needs to burn. So life is often like that. You need money, right? You need build things and get things done. And that's the element of fire in our lives. And then element of water is element of nourishment, like water of the womb and water of the rain nourishes us. So if you think of that, you experience kitchen as a place where you get things done, right? In the budget, on time, but you also worry about how are we nourished here? Nourished in our bodies and mind and spirit, all of it needs to be nourished, right? And then earth is a systems, processes on which we stand, something sturdy, something like a rock on which we stand and that holds us. So these are the tools and timing and planning and all the things we put in place to make this possible. Like, for example, Zoom platform is an earth element for your community, right? And people who say hello and welcome you, they're in a nourishment element here, right? So, and then you have a air element is horizon and inspiration and breathing and visioning and a vision of better world, right? So you can think like that about anything you do, whether it is a meeting, whether it's a parenting, whether it is um, um, anything in life that you do. It helps me a great deal with parenting, because if I provide these four things in one way or another to my kids, I'm good. We're good. You know, you cannot shrink this into less elements than this. It's a really nifty way to do it. And so I want to ask you, when you think about your experience in the kitchen, your experience of buying food, thinking about where it came from, how it came to your table, gratitude for that, connecting it with science and biology and seasons and having it on your table, preparing it and treating it, creating a story around it to serve to people you love and nourish their lives as they go on in life, inviting a stranger, and all of this, it's all connected. Which of these elements is your element? You find yourself in the element, like, oh yeah, I'm into this element. Or which of these elements is the one that's challenging for you? You know, you might, oh, I'm inspired by food, and I'm like nourished by food, but I have no patience to do it. I would leave it to somebody else. Human ability to prepare food for yourself and honor and nourish yourself is same as, okay, I'm not going to preach here, but I want to say is that it is an essential life skill. Essential life skill. You are like breathing or walking, right? And it's also simple. And so why don't we break into like groups of two for like maybe 4 minutes, and then say, what is a part of the kitchen that particularly I'm interested in, the one that you are avoiding, that you don't want to, that it's kind of not fitting you, or it's a challenge for you, or something that you, maybe a gap that you have. Uh, and you can be as specific as you need to, but it's good to make that assessment, to have a look and say it. All right. So see you back in about 4 minutes. So 2 minutes per person. Depict your kitchen.
Thanks, Samir. Kathleen, are we all set to break out?
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and open them and we'll be good to go.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's enough time, Samir?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
You can give him a warning. Yeah, time is flying. This is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like already 30 minutes. I'm like, didn't even start.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Mhm. All right, I think people will start arriving now.
Yeah, it says about 10 more seconds and they'll close.
All right.
I hit the leave meeting button too fast. That's such a great structure, Samir. We've been talking about it since you introduced it yesterday.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. It helps. Because nobody owns it, you know, it's not some sort of a religious or some Harvard study or something. It's
Right.
it's just so obvious, and this is the humans came with this like first.
Samir,
Yeah.
can I quick piece of feedback?
Yes.
Can you hear me? We just had time for one person to share, so I don't know if we maybe on the next time we give it a little more time or something.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Just feedback on timing of things.
I
Yeah.
think Kathleen suggested that. I'm sorry.
Every single time in my life I've ever run a group,
Kathleen's fault.
I don't have enough time.
Oh my goodness, so sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Just to know that. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Did you tell people to bring something from their kitchen, the item? Right? Okay, I'll mention that again so they can kind of grab it quickly if they haven't. As soon as they arrive.
I think we should all be back by now.
Oh, we are back.
I think we
Oh,
are.
yeah, it looks like, yeah, because I only see 5. I'm thinking, where's the rest? But that's the deal here. All right. Well, thank you everybody for doing this. And I was just told that it was really time's too short. And so, sorry about that. Well, live and learn, right? I hope this idea of these elements has been helpful. And you can look at the elements through the Bible, like in your own tradition as well. You know, Jesus talks about like there's a fire, there's like a water of life, there is breathing the air, the kingdom of air. Basically, in the Gospel of Luke, when Jesus says kingdom of God, actually it says kingdom of air that touches your skin. But they translate it as the kingdom of God because they were very puzzled how air holds us. So I'll skip tons of things, and I just want to sort of try to make my case here a little bit about transformative power of the culinary experience. But Lori asked you to take an item from your kitchen and bring it. So if you didn't do that, you know, grab something, whatever speaks to you, and then just bring it to you. So my case here as the kitchen as a hub of life is that, first of all, it has unavoidable location. In order to live, you have to be there. Like, it's one of those things that it's a natural daily chapel. Sometimes I go for my individual retreat to this only Episcopal monastery, and there's like 30 monks, and 5 times a day we get together, and a kitchen provides a place where you need to step in. It's also, so it's not like yoga studio where you need to travel to. It's just right there. All seasons of lifespan. Uh, every part of our life has different tasks and different harvest and different experience. And these all seasons of life are moved on through the kitchen. Important decisions in our lives are made there. There's such a thing as like a kitchen test. Whether you're deciding for the government or you're deciding for your kids, after school program, there has to be a moment in a kitchen where we say what's going to happen, right? Because there is this mystical part of the kitchen where we actually, our fight or flight response is removed simultaneously with people, because you cannot have a fight and flight response and take in the food. It's the same way you cannot, like they say, close your eyes, open your eyes when you sneeze. Like physiologically you can't. Because if you have a fight or flight response, you cannot swallow. So you have to make yourself feel safe in the world in order to eat. And so when you're safe in the world, suddenly you are more creative. You can zoom out, you can zoom in. You can make decisions that are more in a relaxed manner, right? And so that's the power of that place. Relationships and decisions are being built. Sometimes I find myself in the kitchen, turn a light off in the evening, everybody's bed. I'm just sitting in the kitchen with the light off and thinking about what is going on. My wife thinks I'm watching news. My kids thinks I'm doing something else. No, I'm in a dark kitchen, just sitting in the evening and just letting things defragment for myself. It's a place of art and science. It is art because you need to use all five senses. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But religion and spirituality, if you just think how much Christianity is tied to food, it is everywhere, right? Like everywhere you turn there. And then economy, politics, environment, and it's a whole person practice. And it's also, I started to talk about that, encompasses history of human transformation. So I wanted to go a little bit through, what the kitchen has done for humans and what it can do for me and you. That's what I'm interested in. So it is important in all of these kind of like this conversations about the personal transformation and the meaning of life and how we see the world, is to talk about the concept of attention. And I mentioned that as much as we pay attention, so much will life give itself to us. Think about your lover or a friend, or a piece of art or anything. It is all about our attention. Our attention is the only currency we have, where we put our attention. And everything else can be determined by other people for us. It's actually a manifestation of free choice. So if I say, pay attention to right in the middle of the room where you are. Now, shift your attention out of the window. Like that's a choice, right? So what I want to invite you to, take that piece of something you brought from the kitchen and think about it. What is that piece saying to you? Why did you pick that piece? Like, why did it catch your attention? Why not some other piece? And what is this, whatever you picked, what is it saying to you? What is it, if you could speak to you, what is it saying to you? Now, that might be an exercise in like, however you want to take it. I'm tempted here to break us in the room, so you actually have to say it, right? So take a minute. Let's just take a minute, pause, and in silence, and just, you might want to write it down, or you might say it. What is it telling you, right? Thank you, Sarah. I will never fail you. Wow. Great. Love it. Um, mm. Be alert and not anxious. Thank you, Ben. Something about power and the beginning of everything. Mm. All right, this is some high altitude cooking. Yeah. Now think about this idea that an item. Okay, let me just stop sharing for a moment here, so we can see everybody, right? All right, now I can see the whole screen. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Hey, can you lift your item? Just lift it, show it. Yeah. Oh yeah, Sarah, that one will not fail. I know that one. That's an amel. Oh, all right. Look at the teacup there. Oh, this is great. Flip the burgers there.
It's on safe. It's even got dinner in it now.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, looks great. I love the look.
Mine is so
I almost grabbed a fish turner too, Becky.
Fish turner. Okay. Okay, you can also unmute yourself and name what you have.
iron skillet.
Oh yes, I just got the new one today. That's great. Look at that knife waving there. That's a serious chops. Oh, okay, beautiful cups. Thank you, Linda and Mary Ann, right?
Mary Lou.
Mary Lou.
Drinking vessel because everything's packed.
Oh, so
I see.
So this is from tea to margaritas at night.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful.
Nourishing.
Yeah. So these are, these things that you are holding, it is interesting that they maybe didn't speak to you until like today, right? But if you pay attention to them, they start speaking. If we would have a retreat now, I would send you out and say, find something in a forest that speaks to you. And I bet if you would have an hour or two and you would come back, you have a long story about what that stone is telling you. And you know why that stone is speaking to you? For real. It's speaking to you for real, and it means to you something. And you're learning something, and you're getting advice, and you're going to live better. Because you simply were instructed to pay attention, and you paid attention. So does everything. So does everything around our lives gives itself to us. Everything is waiting for you. There's a poem by David White goes, everything is waiting for you. In fact, let me read it at the end. I would love that. And so when things are waiting, you pay attention, then they start speaking to you and affect you, and you're not alone, even with things, but let alone people as well. If you pay attention, suddenly they'll start speaking. And so great. I wanted to go over, maybe I have not 9 things the way. kitchen changes us, but I think, I'm sorry, I went overboard. It's like bringing too many groceries, being too excited about and then your spouse goes mad. You know, especially in New York, where are we going to put these? So I will just kind of like go through them, maybe some of them briefly, some of them I'll just kind of mention, and we'll go like that. Would that be okay? All right. Screen share. Okay, so the question is, you know, what's the kitchen? Kitchen is where we learn to live with the unknown. So you learn to tolerate the unknown, then you befriend it, and then you delight in it. There's a whole spectrum from us. Some people are afraid of the kitchen because they're afraid they don't know. They'll get lost. They will fail. Then things are not going to work out. But that's how, because kitchen is an endless history, endless science. It's so big. It's big like art, or it's big like, I cannot know even what to compare it with. And today, our new normal is to learn to live with uncertainty, to not know, to simply say, I'm uncertain what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm breathing and I'm moving on and I'm making this food and I'm going to eat it and I'm going to sustain myself and I'm going to keep going. People are more afraid of unknown and uncertainty than anything else. And nothing compares to that. And capacity to sustain your presence and love and connection with people in life without knowing is the skill of the future. And I think kitchen is a low, how would I say, it's a low barrier to entry to practice not knowing something, because if you don't know, in some other cases, like I was just speaking with Crystal, you know, if you make a mistake when you're in wilderness and fall off the cliff, that's a different story than burning a dinner, right? So it allows you to, what I say, develop this irreducibly human capacity of wayfinding. And wayfinding is the way we as humans have found a way always from the cave to now Mars in the just, I don't know how many thousands of years, a short period. Because we are afraid of the unknown, but we love the unknown, right? Unknown is the greatest lover. It's a greatest seducer for us, but also we have fear with it. It's where joy is and it's where fear is. And we as humans are the only species that go into that space. All other species are just happy to be where they are and minimize any exposure to unknown. But humans will not. We will go into that place. And so anyway, there's a bridge between that and how you experience that in a kitchen. It's such a great way to learn that. Second piece is to recalibrate our intuition. We all love to live by intuition, because intuition is a moment of knowing where all of our previous experiences and everything we know and have ever experienced and memorized come in one lucid moment into a decision. Because you cannot go back and scan all of your knowledge like a spreadsheet, because that will take as much time as you have lived, but you need to make this decision right now. There's capacity in a human being to recall all of our knowing in one lucid moment, have everything mixed together and make a decision or be guided by intuition. But that intuition needs to be recalibrated with new experiences. You constantly recalibrate, because intuition is a sum of your past wisdom. But new things are happening and you have to new experiences, so you recalibrate your intuition. And I think, you know, that's a powerful way to to be focused, but also grow. And I'm not going to go into like why it's better to be apprentice instead of an expert, and why it's better to be an immigrant instead of a hero. That's for some other time. Or I'll send you something to read, or like, let me just kind of skip that. Question our separation illusion. This is what I love, is what is inside of you, in your body, inside of your skin is you, right? What is outside of you is you. You are you, and the Trump voter is you. We are all each other. And that religion exists to overcome this illusion of separation. And, you know, so when you are in the kitchen, this is enactment of our defeat to our insistence of separation. Because you have to eat to survive, right? And somebody else produces it. That's why we clap here at 7 o'clock in New York. I mean, it was for 3 months. We were banging all of our pots and pans at 7 o'clock because we're thankful to people who are suddenly becoming essential people, more important than politicians, more important than bankers, more important than anybody, right? That we depend on the life of the outside of us in order to survive. Kitchen makes that abundantly clear. Right, that that farm and success of that farmer is my own success. That I'm connected, right? Then the next piece here is be present and imagine. Let me just summarize it. Like someone give you an example. Lawrence Kushner, he is this Jewish rabbi and a mystic, and I was on his seminar for a week here in New York. And he was talking about mystical experiences. And he says, everybody has mystical experiences. They happen every he says, about once in 2 years for 20 seconds. Right? And those mystical experiences, when we talked about it, is that our brain, we are either present or we are imagining things, or we are telling a story. So an example would be, you're either fully present or you are listening or you are interpreting and making up a story in your head. Like a good example would be if you're listening to a person. If you're really listening, you do not know what you are thinking, or you are thinking to prepare what you're going to say, right? So you are either making up your own story or you are really present. And it's a toggle in our brain. In neuroscience, you cannot do both at the same time. You are either present or you're making things up in your head, right? One of the two. And so what happens is that Eastern religions have specialized in presence, in what is real, and Western religions in what is good. So they are very narrative. So imagination is about creating stories. So it's like and I find, personally, the Judaism is in between the two and kind of brings both in presence and narrative together. But kitchen is the only place where you have to be present, or you're going to burn yourself, cut yourself, poison yourself, right? You have to be careful. You have to be present. But at the same time, whenever you are cooking for something, for somebody. You have feelings, and these feelings are present there from your life and from generations before you. They are there. And in a kitchen, you cannot but be in your narrative, but also present at the same time. And when that happens, that's a mystical experience. That's flow. You can experience that in other ways. There are ways to experience that in your life, and some people experience it more or less. But when our whole being, we experience fully presence and our potentiality or story, that's like a being whole. Now, I just want to make a little break here because I'm talking so much. Lori, you should have, your task was to interrupt me. But how does this land with you? Is it like a heady thing, or you have some questions or observations, or I'd love to know how is this landing for you, and what are some of your thoughts?
Anyone have anything they'd like to dive in with? Feel free to add it in the chat, or just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question or something you're thinking about.
I know for me, the last chunk of time has been about, there've been numerous transitions in the last couple of years, and in the last 3 months, I've been cooking and baking daily, and it's just such a joy, and it's such a joy to share. And so what you're talking about, it being a mystical experience, it really resonates, but it's also just incredibly important to add to sort of a series of tools and healing, to understand that, like, not only have I made some truly like impeccable meals or things like that, but I've also sort of made magic, and that's really important. Feels wildly important right now. So I have deep gratitude for being reconnected to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I think part of what connected for me, Samir, you were when you were talking about intuition and life wisdom. I have spent many hours of my life in the kitchen, and I do have intuition about how long things take and what might taste good together, and I feel pretty comfortable making things up, but that doesn't always translate into the rest of my life. So I appreciate the invitation to think about what it might look like to be as comfortable listening to my intuition outside of the kitchen as I do in.
Right, because what's really powerful about kitchen is that it gives you a bodily memory of a certain experience. So because you're using your senses, so you're not reading a book or sitting somewhere and thinking about it or even conversing, you know how body feels when you rely on your intuition, right? And you can recall that and say, oh yeah, I can do that, right? Other things as well, pausing, mindfulness. Sometimes when I find myself rushing through cutting the carrot, I say, nope, I'm just going to turn off the news and double on how long it's going to take me to cut these carrots. Because I really want to be here, and I want this to be me time, like I'm walking or something, and really find a way to, as I live through this, I'm recharged at the same time. And here I have, I want to show you this. Share screen here again. Yeah, so this is a phone that's being charged, right? Because we often feel like there's commercial going on right now on CNN, and the woman is in a kitchen and she opens a box and says, we don't have to cook anymore. And this guy comes out of a bathroom. Really? We don't have to cook anymore? I'm like, that's a nightmare. That's a bad news. That's bad news. And commercial is for something you put in a microwave, right? Because we feel that as human beings, that life is like our work, our professional work is something that is exhausting us, and then when we need vacation to restore ourselves, right? So we crawl in on all four instead of arriving to vacation and saying, what is a new thing I can try? What is a creative thing I can do? So the life skill of the future is the one that will help you, like a phone that you're using and charging it at the same time, right? So that if you have a mindfulness practice or meditation practice, and you learn those practices through what you do, through appreciating what you do, through being present through it, if you can do that well, and if you become good at that, you become good at recharging as you live, lead as you live, grow as you live, recharging as you go. What I'm saying, as you go. So, because especially lead as you go, a lot of times we don't have what's happening next week. Most of us are completely lost right now, whoever's leading anything. So you have to lead a day at a time. You have to love a day at a time. And recharging yourself, it's a really, really great way to think about what we do every day. And then I have here, trust the unsafe world. And I really love this one because no matter what you say, how much unfortunate we are and circumstances we have personally or as a, as a community, we are here. You know what it took, for millions of years to happen for us to be here? I mean, think about what needed to happen. How many ancestors of ours loved one another, dated, seduced each other, had love, gave birth, grew up the person, and that person grew up as next person, and the next person, and all the way to where we are, to our birth, and then every day, all the way to this morning. Life wants, in your circumstances, is doing everything it can for you to succeed, to live, to support you. And that's why we are here. And if you have enough food, and if you have that experience that life sustains you, one of the greatest things to learn is to learn, as Jesus puts it, kingdom of God is here and everything will be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end, right? And, for me, when Jesus said, first time I really heard when Jesus says kingdom of God is here, it was way more important than my first conversion, that everything is about love and grace and I'm forgiven and I'm accepted. That paled in comparison to knowing that everything is okay with everything and that I'm part of that. And I feel like life is on my side. I'm going to skip one and go this is the last one. Calling and being called. I feel that food and kitchen requires you to be an artist. It's not about consuming a certain amount of calories to put it in your body. You have to be a chef if you are in a home kitchen, because nobody is chefing for you and giving you tasks. You actually have to create. You actually have to rely on your own creativity and hear what is calling you from the store and what you're going to do and what kind of a beauty you will create. It is a sort of like to be an artist is to be in touch with the unknown and wanting to communicate that unknown to everybody else. It's like having one foot in the unknown, one foot in the known. That's what the artists are. That's why they're so tortured, right? Tortured artist is tortured because they see something that nobody else sees that's unknown and they want to communicate it, right? And I love this concept of they have a Howling on the Moon service here in St. John the Divine. When a coyote or a wolf howls at the moon, we think that coyote is simply animal that doesn't know what moon is, right? Stupid animal, right? A crazy animal, like they think the moon is something, but maybe the moon and the coyote, they might have a relationship we don't know about, right? That goes back before even humans started, right? They might have a real relationship that we are not privy to. It's their interspecies thing. How can whale go for 1,000 miles without missing 1 degree? We still do not have any idea as human beings. We don't know if it's in their body, if it's in their cells, if it's in their brain. We have no idea. And a lot of species have that. So you're crazy, what you are hearing and experiencing in the world as an artist, double down on it. That's your job, to double down on it, to trust that you're called, and that you called life and you're being called, and it's a conversation between you and the world, and it looks crazy to everybody else. And I feel like that's a call that we are called to. I remember my dad we would both kneel in front of the oven, and there would be walnut cake inside, and it would be rising, and he would say, come, look. And I would look in the oven through the glass, and he would say, look, it's breathing. Well, I have two options. I can say, Dad, you're nuts. I'm going out with my friends. Or I can say, oh my goodness, well, I don't understand it. Like, how can he get into it so much? And I can borrow his faith and his trust and his vision for a little bit and wear it and try it, right? So there must be something like that. If it's not cooking, maybe something else, like whatever it is, might be cleaning of the apartment. If you pay attention to it, it's calling you, and you're calling it, and you go crazy, and everybody else is saying, oh, if somebody else can clean my apartment, I say, I would never give that up. I would never give that up, right? There's people like that, and that doesn't make sense to me, but their howling on the moon makes sense to them, right? So what's your howling on the moon? Where are you crazy? Like, that's so important. And I would say, kitchen is an art form. How many of you know about these mandalas, this Buddhist monk do? I was once at a conference, and there was 7 of them, and they did this for 3 days, and I was observing them 3 days they were doing it. And they make it out of the sand, right? And then they go at the end of 3 days, they have a ritual, and they take this little like a brush, and they brush it, and they collect it, and then they put it in a box, and they take it to some river or a creek, and they spill it, and then you say, why did 7 adults spend 7 days to do something that they will destroy in 7 minutes? I mean, that's crazy, right? You can do so many more important things, right? And you listen to them, they don't talk much, they just do it. But their take on this is that everything in life is temporary, everything. Enacting this is a form of 7-day meditation, that everything passes, and we cannot live without that kind of meditation, right? And they create an art, and this is an art, right? So when somebody says, so what I want to invite you to is that every meal you are preparing, it's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. But just because it's going to be gone, just because it's temporary, doesn't mean it's not an art form. And it's art form that uses only art on earth that uses all 5 senses. You can't eat the song, and you cannot smell the painting, right? But with food, you can do all of these things. With Eucharist, you can do all of these things, all 5 senses, maybe even 6. So it's important to practice this full art. And then there's 2 more I have, but we have to close here. Turn to what we are. Yeah.
Here, I wonder if you could choose. We have about 5 minutes left, so I wonder if there's either one thought you'd like to share with us before we close, or if there's some kind of question you'd like to ask. I'm not sure how you wanted to close today, so we've got
right. Thank you. Yeah, we said we will go to 10:15.
Ooh, I like.
All right. Yeah.
Maybe could we ask folks if there's anything they're avoiding in the kitchen right now?
Also, Lori, I'm wondering if folks want to stay on for like 10 minutes or something afterwards, if they have questions or things, even if Samir has to go.
Okay. Great idea, Reagan. Thank you.
Oh, I'm here. I can hang out, you know. But also, if you just go to it's called the kitchenhood dot life. Let me just give you the
Here, I can do that in the chat, Samir.
Yeah, okay. Here's the kitchenhood.live. If there's a wait list there, and I'm gonna have a membership group and that starts in September. But if you go there and sign up on this wait list, you can get these slides.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So those slides will be just get into your inbox, which has most of these things. Right? You know, maybe I can update them, but they're there. So what I would like to finish with is temptations. But here, just to put things in perspective, we have these add-on transformational spaces in our lives. As important as they are, like yoga studio, I do yoga, but I do it at home by myself. I just kind of paid to learn, and then I do it at home. Therapy room, art room, meditation studio, dojo if you do martial arts, hotel conference room, you know, to go for a workshop. But original transformational space was the kitchen. You know, this is where people started tinkering with everything, from elements to stories and meanings and connections and family units and all of that kind of thing. And that's why it captures so much imagination of people of our religious traditions. So that's what I'm trying to do. A kitchenhood for me is like a sisterhood or brotherhood or neighborhood, something that connects us. It's like a wormhole through which we are connected, like on this screen, you know, from kitchen to kitchen. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I feel I can create abundance through simplification and freedom to discover and growth through connection. Those are some of the things. And then, oh, the joy. I want to finish with this story here. This is my friend Russell. I had a couple here. One was from Finland, one was from Holland, and they lived in New York, and they were getting married upstate, and they had this like a big tent, and there was going to be like, you know, 120 people flying from all over the world, mostly from Europe, and they had a big catering company that was going to do everything for them, and then these people dropped out a week before. Like they just kind of dropped them. Totally like say, we'll count our losses. We have bigger fish to fry. And so they approached me and say, can you do this? I'm like, what made you think I can do this? Right. But they were in between homes and they lived with us for 2 months. So they kind of know what goes on in our kitchen. And I'm like, I have never done that kind of a thing. And I think there should be at least like in my part of the world, it's very complex to have a wedding. So I said, okay, we can do like 3 to 5, you know, dishes and I need 5 people to help me. And so they recruited 5 people to help me and we did it. And it was amazing. It was just a great experience for me. And I think a lot of you know more about this than you think, because when necessity is created, necessity automatically like awakes your energy and awakes your creativity. You wouldn't believe what you can do if you have to do it. Mark Bittman, you know, one of the greatest writers, food writers that writes for New York Times, he didn't have a job. His wife had a job and he had started cooking late in life and became one of these great chefs and great writers about cooking, because he says only because of necessity. And then the second person is my daughter. She one day, she cannot go now to bed if she doesn't cook something. She's like completely addicted. And one night she's like, okay, it was like 4 o'clock, let's have a cookout. So I cooked like several things that you can see here. It was like Macedonian beans with roasted peppers on the top. And then there was like a cornbread with some vegetarian turkey on it and something else here. And then she made this ricotta cake with blood oranges and won completely. I lost big time. And I felt like, yes, I have arrived. Kids are all right. So I, life is all right. If you have a breakfast, life is all right. Everything is fine ultimately, and you're reminded over and over that life cares for you, that God cares for you, that people care for you, that we care for each other, and that there's great hope. I mean, looking at where we are, when you eat, you realize that we have overgrown, that fear is not, it used to serve us in the
I have
past,
a
but
question.
time has passed.
How do we support chefs? How do we support restaurants? How do we support families right now? What's the best way to like be safe and respect our neighbors, but also continue to enjoy the foods of different cultures, the foods of different families? How do we, I guess ultimately the question is, how do we take your practice into August of 2020 in the United States of America?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, Jose Andres, he's a chef that is doing he's doing a lot of work in that respect. And you basically, there's people who don't have enough food, and you can just Google his organization, and what he does, you shuffle money to the restaurants, and then restaurants prepare food and deliver to people who are hungry, right? So that's one way to like make that thing flow. Like they keep their jobs, people who are hungry, they get fed, and you get to participate in that and help, right? So that's one way. Other way is simply find some families who you believe or know that they're just responsible people, that you put your lives into their hands, and that's fine. We do that all the time, right? When we cross the street, or when we drive, we trust people simply. And when people say, look, we take all the precautions, and when we make a food, here's what we do, and here's how we do it. How about, we'll cook on Tuesday, and you don't have to cook anything. We'll deliver it to you, and you deliver it to us on Thursday, right? So now you're cutting down cooking, you're making an exchange and creating that bond in between people, and simply, trusting that process. So that's one of the ways. Also, teaching your children to cook, teaching your parents, teaching yourself is good, because we will emerge out of this, someday. So it's a good thing to leave this with a one great skill, like maybe you can learn a language, or you cook or something like that. Meditation or exercise. So cooking might be something to do. And this is what I'm doing. I organize retreats, and people signed up. They would come for 3 days to my kitchen here, and then we go like 20 hours of experience, and they kind of make great progress, and they can like feel very comfortable in the kitchen. But then COVID came, and I had to I had 3 of those organized, and I had to refund everybody, and nothing happened. So I'm trying to do it now, and I think I can through with a group that kind of figures out how to best make this communication work, and how best to learn, and how best we can have ourselves integrated with community around us. So the big thing is to know how to shop the grocery store, how to do those kind of things. They're equally important, to get to know people who make your food, to seek out how you can get food from local farms and help them survive through this. I mean, we have time to think through the things and research and be creative. So if you, Ben, find some new ideas, please share. I'd love to know.
Yeah, you mentioned author of New York Times and food journalism, David Chang, the Momofuku chef. I've really appreciated his voice within this moment, and he wrote a big editorial on just what it's like to be a restaurateur, what it's like to be a chef. I've really appreciated the journalism that's come out right in a time like this, to remember food, just for connection in the midst of just kind of the unknown.
Yeah, it's an anchor that you can use your five senses to anchor yourself. It's very important to do bodily things in this time of stress. So it's so important that you have touch, you know, if nothing, you touch yourself, you know, like massage yourself, or, you know, do what you need to do, because reminding yourself that you're in the body, it helps you go through this process much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben, for pointing us in that direction. That was interesting. Are there any other
Samir,
questions or observations?
Yeah. Samir, I'm wondering, you know, as a Christian community, you talked about presence, and that the Eastern traditions are good at presence. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, what does presence look like for Christian people? Like in our tradition?
Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. All right, so think about people who are very good at meditation, let's say. Maybe you know some people who have been practicing it. You can see the difference in them. Like, you can see the difference, you can experience yourself the difference when you're meditating. And when people intentionally practice being present and mindful. And then you know people who have never even heard the word meditation, like your grandmother or your uncle or aunt, who have such a poise and such a presence in life without any self-help books, without any religious 10-step programs, any of that. They're just present, and they know the narratives of their lives, and they live deeply, right? So the issue here is that we are all practicing this already, right? It is just that Eastern traditions has paid attention and curated the language for it for the rest of us, right? They have dedicated themselves to observe that and to language that, to document that, to pass it on. But all around the world, humans know instinctively and intuitively and you know, we are born with this need to be present, right? That rewards us. So in Christianity, it happens equally. It is just that it's not named, and sometimes it is named. You know, when Jesus says, let's go aside and do that, or when Jesus says, do you see this woman? Like, he didn't mean like, okay, let's see who's blind here, who's not blind. I want to count like how many, like, he didn't do that. His question was, of course you're all looking, but how many of you are seeing? Right? So that's a classic statement of attention. Like, yeah, attention. So if you have these eyes of presence and you read the Bible, just read it with that attention, these things will start popping up like everywhere.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about like memory in Christianity and the power of remembering, and the Eucharist, the original, you know, the Greek word anaphora for the Eucharistic prayer is remembering, you know, remembering that,
right.
Like,
Yes.
I feel like the connection between remembering who we are in the present moment and presence as we're talking.
Yeah, I love that. It's I mean, there is so many you know, things that that you can see, when Jesus talks about things and when and how things go, you can sense that they were very present people. They knew how to do that. They knew how to listen. They knew how to pause. They had, really, really life-giving practices that were so normal to them. They were so normal that they don't even talk about it. Like, we now need to talk about it because it's strange to us, because we need to recover them, right? But for them, it was like, two fish, like who was this? Wallace, who said that there's two fish passing by each other, and one fish says like, "Hey, how's the water today?" And the other fish says, "What's water?" Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's how it was some ways with them, so that we don't even know by just kind of introducing that.
Reagan, that brought to mind something that came up.
Thank you.
Came to mind earlier when you were talking, Samir, and Aram might know who said this, but when I was first kind of introduced to the more Christian contemplative tradition, I heard the phrase, "The language of love is the language of waste." And that has stuck with me for 20 plus years. And I've thought about the lavish grace of God shows up as almost waste. Like we talked about with the parable of the sower, he's just sowing seeds everywhere with no attention to the ground under. And the same is true with food. When we create this, we'll sometimes put so much time and energy into a meal that is art that will be gone in 20 or 40 or 50 minutes. But there's a love that goes into that willingness to waste and be extravagant that I think is also a definite part of the Christian tradition that the contemplatives have a deeper contact with.
Yeah. A lot of transformation has become so serious and so tedious. I mean, to the point to having you have this Tony Robbins, like, you're yelling at people and you need to change and you need to like it's so onerous sometimes and hard and heavy, but transformation should be playful. You can't get too involved with your food. You cannot fetishize food. I need to have the best knife. I need to do this. No, it's all going to be gone, right? So there is this detachment of sort with that art, and there's sort of lightness about it that needs to be maintained in all spirituality. I feel like if there is no humor and lightness, something is off. The moment it gets down to like who is doing 3 steps and who is not doing 3 steps here, like that means you're completely stuck, So look, Buddhists would say when you meet a Buddha, kill him, right? That's their saying. Don't even let Buddha rule you, right? As I was growing up, I grew up in a Muslim family, so we had like Ramadan and all of that stuff. And so I have a couple of, really great stories about that. And, one of them is my dad would every year, he would roast a pork leg, like a quarter of a pig, right? We're Muslims. Think about that. So he roasts it in the oven, he puts it on a table, and we all like looking at each other. And sometimes there would be blood sausages, pig blood sausages, all right? Because that was popular in Croatia. I mean, it's just a normal thing in Germany. Like, they eat that, for fun. And then when I was like, why? And he says, every year we need to remind ourselves that religion is not in charge. And we would eat it and enjoy it, right? So that was one thing. Another playful thing that I have, like my aunt, she just passed away 3 days ago in her 90s. She was my favorite aunt. And when I became a Christian, my dad got berserk, and it was just like, it was really, really troubling situation at home. And I wasn't with my parents for 2 years. But this Ferzata is her name. And when I was a kid, I was a 5-year-old, and there will be Ramadan, and everybody's fasting for a month. And when everybody's fasting, for us kids, that's like, wow. I mean, these are Jedis. I mean, these are ninjas. I mean, these people can not eat the whole day. And you as a kid, you just so want to be part of that. Like not eat all day, and then in the evening we eat together, right? Everybody gets together and we eat. And like, but you can't, you're hungry. Like, you're a kid. And she comes to me and she says, you know what, Samir? Prophet Muhammad said that if I take piece of this cloth, fabric, and I sew it on your clothing, right, on a piece of your clothing during the Ramadan, that you can eat during the day when you need to, and you are still fasting. And I'm like, amazing. I can be a Jedi, right? I can actually eat and be a Jedi. And of course, Muhammad never said that. That doesn't exist at all. Like she completely made it up, right? And she said, what is important for you during the Ramadan, that every day you feel hunger, because we never want to forget that there are people in the world who do not have food, who do not feel that they are sustained, and the life that God is with them, and that they are loved, and they're like that. Hunger is an act, daily practice, daily necessity. Hunger is a daily necessity to feel empathy towards most people, right? So that's what hunger is. Hunger reminds us, so do not rush hunger. When I have these, teach people, when they're hungry, I say, go to the street and talk to your hunger. Like feel it, sense it, see how it goes from your stomach to your body, feel lightness in your limbs a little bit, drink some water, feel it again, come to peace with it, thank it for warning you that you need food. Listen to it, because it might be confused and telling you, look, you are overweight, you might want to lose some weight, I'm just yelling here, but don't listen to me, right? Might be like that. And then you come home and then you eat just everything. I think that single thing helped me take down 15 pounds. Just by saying once a day, I'm going to feel the hunger and talk to it and do nothing else. And suddenly when you're eating, you're not just stuffing your face and saying like those Snicker, there's a commercial for the Snicker, devour quickly because you need to, or something like that. I don't know how it goes, but so kind of slowing down. So that's a mindful slowing down when you're hungry, because nobody wants to talk about befriending your hunger. They all have diets, and ignoring your friend, a hunger, who helps you survive. He's not against you. Doesn't want to mess you up. Acknowledge it. Like fear is your friend, so anyway, these things you notice everywhere.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Samir. You mentioned earlier a poem by David White that includes the line.
Oh, yes.
I wondered if you might close us with that.
Oh, I don't know. I cry at that poem.
I do too. That's why I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me just pull it up here. I actually. Let me.
No obligation.
No. What I have, I asked him to use his poem, a video of his poem, for a cooking show that I was doing, American Love.
Yeah.
We cooked food from 10 swing states, and I asked him to be a guest on the show, and because I was with him in Tuscany for that event. And then I had a recording of him saying that poem in his kitchen.
Oh.
And I have the recording, so just let me just pull it out. Yeah. Oh, it'll take my joy from saying it, but anyway.
Pardon my asking, what part of Macedonia are you from?
Pardon?
What part of Macedonia are you from?
Oh, I'm from Croatia.
You're from Croatia.
But it was Yugoslavia, and I served in Macedonia.
Okay.
Um,
I spent 6 months in Macedonia as well. So, but
oh yeah, it's beautiful. I was 14 months in the army.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Escape. Somehow it gives me full screen or nothing. How do I do that in iMovie? Let me just see, how does that work? Play.
Travis, how's the food in Macedonia in the U.S. Army, and I wonder how that compares to the Yugoslavian Guard.
With Macedonia was amazing. I mean, a lot of beans and red pepper. It's just everywhere, but it's very fertile place.
Yeah.
Sorry, when I click on my movie, it gives me my whole screen and it goes straight into it, and I don't know how to make it.
Can you share your screen?
Let me see. Let me see. Try that.
There's a little button at the bottom that if you play it, it may share your screen.
Okay, let me see. Share screen. Basic.
The stuff that the UN bought for us when we were there was really not that great. We would actually trade a lot of our jam and jelly for the locals to make us bread.
Yeah, it's working. The screen share is working.
There we go.
Okay, so here he is.
Yep.
I have different movies. I made a kimchi movie.
Yay.
So if I click play here, you tell me if you see it. What happens?
It should
Do
play.
you see that? Do you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's playing, but it's playing very slowly, and we may not. I don't know if we have enough bandwidth for it.
No, we can't. Samir, we can't hear it, unfortunately.
Oh, you can't hear him?
No. So maybe you
But
get to quit reading to us.
Sorry, do you see it?
We do, but it's too slow.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. All right. So then, sorry, David White. I have to do it. Okay. Now I have to pull that out from. Where's the workroom? Resources to share. So now I'm a file where I have my favorite poems. There's about 72 of them. Let me
search.
Okay, so David White. Where is it? Now there's like 12 of his poems, but not that one.
Oh.
All right, so finally, we are resorting to Google, which will solve that really quickly.
Well, while he's looking, thanks to all the rest of you. We're happy to carry on this conversation back on the event page on Facebook like we sometimes do. So if you have new ideas or thoughts, I'd certainly love to hear how you continue to think about it, and we can talk about it there. But thank you, especially all of you who stuck around this long. This was fun.
Okay. All right. Here it is. Everything is waiting for you. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely, even you, at times, have felt the grand array the swelling presence, and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything, everything, everything is waiting for you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you all.
Hope to see you around. If you come ever to New York, don't be a stranger. There is so many good places to catch a bite. And I was in Denver with Vote Common Good recently, and I went to the Museum of Art. I was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It was incredible, especially Jordan Castile. I don't know if you've seen that exhibit. Oh my goodness, she's from Harlem, and I'd never heard of her. But she went to school in Denver, and it was just so beautiful. Pictures. I took a photo of every picture in that exhibit. Yeah. All right. Blessings, everybody. Feast on your life.
Thank you, Sam.
Blessings, Samir. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Good night.
Good night.